Tja, this is a really hard or tough situation talking about art. If there, you both question really the role of the artist. For me, in our times, we thought about speaking maybe about algorithm, or what I think about an algorithm, what you think about algorithm, because it is a term what always appears here around. What can an algorithm be? And we have so the idea that no one really knows what an algorithm is. And but maybe, I don't know, after the presentations, I had the impression that maybe we should talk about how you see it, how you question, from me and my perspective, really the position of an artist, maybe also what art is. And or maybe, I don't know if I should ask this question, because your positions become clear through your presentation, but what could be the role of the artist in this new game, or in this, if we start the game new, because the critique leads or points on the old system somehow, or on the system we are in now, because we haven't started the new game. Is this a question?
Okay. The role of the artist, I think the more...
ideal typic. So the rule, I think you both fulfill perfectly this critical role of an artist, but
try and describe myself, but in general worlds, and I would say that's the role of the artist. Now, I think the more the systems become transparent, and the more you can figure out how things operate, it's easier to position yourself either for or against it, or be ambiguous about it. I'm pretty adamant in my work to never really take a position, to just point at things, and through the work themselves be kind of clear that this is the question that's at hand. I think the role of the artist, clearly, if you want to make art career, is to become the one who runs your art business as the entrepreneur, as Jeff Koons with 150 assistants. I don't know if it has to be like that, but in order to meet the demands of a highly successful artist, I think you have to.
Yeah,
it's a bit sad.
That was from the beginning, so that the artists had this manufacturer style. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not really kind of playing with the art scene so much as Jonas, so I'm not that interested with the role of the artist. I guess I feel like in my position, I just haven't. As an artist, maybe you don't have to. You don't really fit into the normal role, rhythm of things, and you're not. I don't know. You're not. You can take risks. You can look at things a different way because you're not. It won't compromise maybe like a secured job or something that you have to hold on to and stay on a certain path. But
okay, maybe we forgot it. I had an idea as I heard your talk. What would happen if there would be a lot of not Jennifer Lynn Morones, but if other people do also a company, then is there a huge competition, or if there's a franchising of Jennifer Morone, then what would this change on the value of the data or so? Or
well, this kind of, I don't think it would really affect, because it's how, I mean, unless it were, it's more kind of a way of self-governance, and like you said, self-determination, and so it's like the ultimate decentralization, I think, to bring it to each individual. So it might not be, I don't know if the competition, unless it was like another identity similar to mine, you get segmented. It still depends on who, unless I'm not understanding the question.
Or maybe, I don't know, maybe we lead over to the questions from our interventionalists. Maybe my questions are not so the best. Before we open up the panel, then for real questions.
Intervention one.
This is Arambato.
Yeah, I have a question. So, Jonas, you still want to make art? It's a bit like
Yes.
yes. Well, no, but when this the Amsterdam show like was published online, people were reacting like, oh no, like now it's all over, or you can kind of like the algorithm is doing it and the system is running it at the same time. Yeah, you know. Well, as you mentioned, pointing out, it's not making fun of the show, but still, like the moment you analyze the system so deep, as an artist myself, it feels like, oh yeah, I can stop now. but what about? And at the same time, you pointed out in the beginning that it's no logic. I mean, you throwing an algorithm on it, but there is no logic. And what about what I think is like the most crucial point in the art career letter is like knowing people and social connections. I think the curators is like one point in there, but have you like dug deeper into that system, because that's what's I think the most important or valuable points there.
Yeah, for sure. I've been looking into it, but it hasn't taken the shape of a work yet. But I've been trying to move the database from, like right now it's a relational one, so it's kind of like one-to-one. But I've been trying to move it to like a graph database similar to Facebook, so then it's easier to find like the key players in the network, basically. And then, I mean, you know it, but then you would still have to go and kind of utilize this information. I think I haven't utilized that yet.
And then with Microsoft Hollow, you can point out the people in the room to talk to.
With facial recognition, you can scan the room and rank everyone based on their importance and the possibility that they would like positively influence your career and sort everyone. And then that's very much the future of big data, I guess. Yeah.
And also, maybe connecting to that for you, Jennifer, that I was wondering, have you done research on what are the most valuable data sets we produce? Like,
Yeah.
Like what's like email, shopping, what are the
Right now it's insurance numbers.
insurance numbers?
Yeah. But that might depend on the country. In the US it is. It's even more than, and social security numbers, but it's more than bank card information or anything.
Yeah, because I think it's always, we have this idea of, oh, it's very important, or it's like, I don't want people to know where I am, but in fact it's not that interesting for them for you. It's more like what you click, what you buy, where you shop, and these things.
Yeah.
Then of course it depends who's collecting it.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Well, it's just, that's what I found somebody else's wallet the other day, and I thought about on the bus, and I thought about returning it or giving it to the bus driver, and then I was like, oh, I wouldn't want to be in that position to have to go back through that, and who knows what kind of, paperwork you have to go through. So I kept it, but it's a similar thing. I kept it and I gave it back. No, I didn't look at it. I didn't record anything. I didn't take photos, but it's a tangible version of what could happen. Whose hands is it going to end up in? It could have been somebody else, and what they do. It was very, very important information, everything in there. But I didn't keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Intervention number 2. Hi, I'm Jamie. I guess I have one question for both of you, or a kind of comment. It seems I'm a smartass. Like, I do lots of smartass things, smartass artwork, and that's all kind of in this dialogue about irony, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes when you do these kinds of projects, you end up feeling a little, I don't know, saddened or kind of out on a limb or cynical, maybe, And so there's a side of, there's two sides to this. It ends up being something that you feel like you maybe didn't do enough to change or to kind of right the situation that you know now so much about. It's also very forgivable because irony is the only way we can deal with ultimate evils like corporate, culture and, well, anyway, depending on how you feel about the art world, artistic sort of commercial culture. So it's not a criticism at all. It's just like how do you sometimes deal with that dynamic between earnestness and sort of cynicality, where irony is always floating in the middle there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very, very true. Sometimes it's just sheer going on with it, but I think that's what I am afraid of gets lost, like when I am being a bit cynical, or when I am being ironic, and much of this is mockery, but actually doing it for real. So there's a strange mental shifts happening sometimes, and it's exhausting and it's frightening sometimes. Not so much the privacy, but more the financial aspect of like taking this on. And I think the only thing that keeps me sane is to not take money so seriously, and that whatever may happen, I guess I kind of see things in such a way that I can't ignore, so I can't really do anything else, if you understand, if that makes sense. Like I'd be kind of ignoring, I just would have to be like shutting down a certain aspect of myself to go and do something else. And there are many other like ways I can explore offshoots of this topic, and it just kind of all fits under the same thing. So I really am a bit adamant of trying to live a different way, find another system. I know there's going to be a lot of failures that I want to explore, and I couldn't really imagine doing something else after this, or for a moment, like dropping it all and then just giving up. So I guess it's a certain strange determination, maybe naive.
Hi. I think I've often been accused of being very cynical in my work from a lot of different people. But I think, it's partly cynical, but also if it's only cynical, it's really not so interesting anymore. So I think I can counter it through the execution of the work, that it's, for example, the fear of missing out. If it was an algorithm producing artworks, but the artworks were looking like crap, like no one believes it, and then it's only like bad work. But through having kind of a refinement, or like through taking it 100% serious, I can kind of counter a bit of the cynicism and say like, okay, this is the new way of producing work. I think in terms of being earnest, and we can think a lot about change, or like as Peter Sunde said, we lost the game, so there's like no point in playing anymore. I think when talking with Silvio and Sebastian, who also have a piece in the show, Silvio quoted someone who I can't remember because I'm blanking. He said like the only way to change things is politics, because it's the only place you have real influence. So then I can say that's my excuse, because I'm not a politician.
Yeah, but I think I would say yes, everyone is a politician, because everything what we do is somehow a political statement, sure. And so the artists do then also a political statement. But I think for me these both what they this is strength of their of them, that they live this tension and they hold this tension. Maybe this should be what artists should do. Staying in this tension, hold it, and maybe turn it into something really honest and new thing. So they have not to be activists like the unmonetarians also. They have to find expression and understand and to mediate these ideas and start a discussion and initiate maybe a discussion in an immediately understandable way, so that you have really, an impression. So I would call it, and this is for me the strength also of aesthetic, so that it makes it possible to set up an identity and then to act as a political person on top of it. And this, if it is honored or honest, then it's this what we can see here. So I think, that would be
just to follow up. I think you're both balancing that exact tension excellently. So they didn't mean it in a sense that you should be more earnest or that you are cynical. I wasn't accusing you, Jonas. But just a quick follow up to that is often in the critique business, shall we say, what happens is you end up sort of inspiring a certain sort of hegemonic redelivery of your ideas. And that's an interesting, so just quickly to follow up on, like, first of all, have you been asked practically, I'm thinking a little bit more of Jonas's work, to sort of implement those algorithms or those ideas into, a kind of, I'm sure there are some trading companies in New York who would love to operate the art market the way you're sort of algorithmicizing it, and then also, inspiring someone to create a company in order to make a little bit of money out of their own data is certainly sort of putting something into the world that could be genuinely mimicked and probably will be. So I just wonder if have you encountered any reality that wants you to kind of make these things truly earnest, and do you worry about that?
I think when it comes to art market, you remember the sources I was scraping in the beginning. It's Mutual Art and ArtNet and Artifacts. Mutual Art and ArtNet both have like auction history results from like I think at least 20 years. And Mutual Art, they're both very expensive to subscribe to. And I know Mutual Art together with Artifacts are running the ATP, the Artist Trust Pension Fund, which is basically speculating on artist funds like pension. So there's a lot of money involved in it already. I think through the only time I got contacted by some real corporation for using the work was through another work which wasn't included, which is called Gallery Analytics, which is kind of indoor location service, like indoor triangulation service for galleries to figure out how your visitors move around and like where to put what work on the wall to optimize your exhibition. And that was like a lot of museums are interested in that just for sheer data, like getting actual data. And there's already a couple of commercial services and a couple of museums who are using it. So I think that's yeah.
And I've actually, there have been some people that said, can we, in other countries, can they do it, become a corporation to incorporate or to gain ownership of their data? But it's also been a lot from the commercial side. Like Microsoft wanted me, I didn't go, but they wanted me to go up and talk to them about their new theme that they're exploring, digital possessions. Then I had an advertising agency, or they actually collect data. They're basically a data broker. They send out surveys that people do online, and they're trying to figure out who you are. And they're kind of moving in the same way that I was envisioning something, or saying like what could be a cooperative data broker that people would pool their information into, because I don't know if we can really get rid of people, the idea of nobody using data, so as long as we put it. And they're kind of doing something, trying to do something like that, but there's still a big corporation that has high paid salaries, and I'm not sure of their real intentions. And then I was recently contacted by, I guess the story was written about by a doctor who wrote The Patient Will See You Now. And somebody contacted me about talking about what that could possibly mean for people on Medicare or Medicaid as a way to help for insurance costs or something for poorer people. So but I go back to exploitation. I still think there's something, here you have a different healthcare system. In England you have very different, it's free. I don't know that. And that's one example. Where it's just, America is not a country where it takes care of its people. And I don't know, I'm sure there are definitely other countries that are worse. And I just don't know how well it kind of covers all the places legally, if all the same policies are put in place or not. But so to answer your question, yes, I have been from both sides, but nobody's done exactly that yet.
Okay, thank you very much for these interventions. So, and now we open up the microphone for the audience. Yeah, there's a question.
There's a question.
No intervention where needed.
Yeah, thank you both for elaborating on your practice and the works that are in the show. I'd just like to pick up on something that you said, Jonas,
Please,
That
could you speak a little bit
Oh.
louder?
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on something you said, where you said you took a systematic approach to a system that you didn't understand, which is sort of the basis behind scraping the database. And Jennifer, I think maybe you've done the same thing. There's like a system bigger than you that you felt its oppressions upon you, and you took a systematic approach, which I sort of equate with an analytical approach. Are forums like this the best place where you can then share the comprehension or understanding that you got through that process, through taking a systematic approach, and then maybe taking an aesthetic forum? Is that the best place to share that comprehension?
I think when I started making the database, I always had this vision of turning it into an open API, basically, to share like the actual scraping. But then as I started using it for like artistic production, I decided on settling for doing what corporations do and just make everything proprietary and private and secret, because then no one can catch me with my data, because it becomes mine. I think for me it was more a question of responsibility, that if you share it, you need to ensure that it's like 100% accurate or something. And there's also a lot of data copyright that I couldn't get around. Because even if it's public, like online, it still doesn't allow you to download it. It's like by building scrapers and getting it, like especially this kind of auction results and stuff. So I think that was more a practical solution to do it.
No, I was just thinking of how complicated it's been to also use third-party software, and some of the stuff just gets kicked off because there might be a song playing in the background. But is this the right place for this kind of... I think it's an important theme topic to discuss, and I think it's good that we have this kind of exchange. I think it's something that affects everybody, but as far as the systems, I mean, younger generations understand these better than people my age and older. So I think it's kind of a new language that you never know who might know what you're doing, and that can help. And I've found the people that make up my team are from arts, from various disciplines. And I think it's a good place to talk about it, yeah.
Does your corporation have values?
Does it have values?
Yeah.
Ethical values, you mean? Or?
Well, don't some corporations have values, and it's very important what a corporation is?
Yeah. A mission statement. Yeah, I do. And that's kind of what I want to also show. As I have shareholders, gradually I lose that power, or you can keep like a majority percent, but there's always a risk that you don't, and that you have to compromise and actually earn money. So I also want to but just out other ways of measuring value or profit that are not financial. But I have to, if I want to play it safe, then the shareholders, I have to fully trust them, but then you still don't know what greed may do and their consideration or care for a being. So it's, in the US, a corporation's a person. It's easy to kind of treat that person. You can always dissolve it, or it can go bankrupt. You can just leave it alone. It's just kind of protecting you of your liabilities. But when it really is a person, how would you possibly treat it if you are one of the owners? So it's kind of trying to play with how much we care for our creations.
Okay, I think we have room for 2 questions more. There's one.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentations. It's really amazing work, very inspiring. I have a question for Jennifer. You mentioned that your work is informed by being American and being a woman, and I'm curious about if there's any relationship to sort of female identity and the female body and ownership and image making and all these kind of things, and if you could expand on that.
Yeah, well, well, there's also the thing between the value of particularly the female body as well, and the things within that normally lose value to others as they age, but maybe to oneself gain more value or importance because it's kind of dealing with supply and demand. But yeah, I am the object, the subject, and it's a man's world in this corporate way. It's not it's been an interesting thing to mentally inhabit, I guess. I see how much of a game it is, and I see as also a female, I don't know if this is just me, but I think it's not very much my nature or our nature to seek the same rewards or gains or progression maybe that men maybe do. I don't know. I mean, that's my perspective, but it is about value, like trying to figure out the values. And would a woman actually be more valuable than a man as well? That I don't know yet, but because I haven't measured how much men cost.
So the last question. There. Okay.
Hi. Thanks for the presentations, very interesting. Kind of a question for Jonas and kind of about value as well. I just wondered, did the advisory board get paid? Because it seems that in some way they are the creators or maybe the guarantors of the value in the project, which maybe sounds like a really cynical thing to say, but at the same time, it's like, I think it's interesting because it points out that maybe it's not so much about the art itself, the actual objects, the material thing, the painting, but how they connect to other bodies of value. And it kind of brings to the front the immaterial labor of friendship and of connections to people, which is why, to answer Jamie's intervention, I guess a corporation couldn't just do it. Like, you know, like my cousin, like who's just a teenager or something, couldn't do it. It needs to be, it's a particular person and all of the kind of values that they have connected to them. So I just wondered if you could comment on that.
Yeah, for sure. They weren't paid. We're discussing different models for them to get paid, either by commission if the work sells, but that would like distort their wish for approving work or like for liking works or not, or to give them a piece from the show that gets signed, but then that was too much of a commitment because the production wasn't hard enough. What they did get was they got a certificate of performance. A framed one, which was like printed on really nice marble paper, which they can hang in their office next to their Harvard PhD or something like this. But it's interesting. I think for me the more interesting part about the advisory board was that there was 14 people, and I mean it shouldn't come as a surprise, but trying to figure out what's the formula for producing or evaluating works of art, there was never a single work that had any type of consensus. Like half the people like it, half the people hate it, half the people don't care. It's like there's no method for determining what's good and bad, which I find like endlessly inspiring, I would say.
Okay, thank you for being here, Jennifer and Jonas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.